is up, SVSers? That music almost put me to sleep, but welcome to the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour. StreamYard changed it up on us, and this is a very special edition for a couple different reasons. One, because Gary's not here. No, but he will be along shortly. We promise you that.
Maybe there'll be traffic.
Yeah, but we are actually live.
We can get more Q&A done, right?
That's right. We are short wind Q&A. We are live from the largest audio show in North America, AXPONA, and it's in beautiful Schaumburg, Illinois. And of course, I have Larry here, our director of training. Larry, how are you this evening?
I'm good. It's good to be with you guys. Nick and I are like just neighbors right now, so
yeah. We're in adjoining hotel.
Trying not to be on top of each other. Yeah. And all is good here, man. Excited to be here. We've all been jazzed about this show for a while.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about our rooms here in a second. Of course, we have our director of technology, Ed Mullen. Ed, how are you?
What's going on, good people? I am rocking and rolling with the 5000 series launch.
Yeah, that's right. That is going to be a topic of conversation for this evening. Gary is en route to his hotel, so he'll probably pop in. I got to pay attention to make sure I don't keep him out of the stream when he does show up. But we're very excited to be here at AXPONA. And of course, we have, like always, 3 fantastic giveaways. All you have to do to be eligible for the giveaways is to leave a comment, one entry. You can leave 100 comments. You don't get 100 entries. And we have 3 of those wonderful giveaways. And Larry, what are they?
They are starting off with an SB1000 Pro subwoofer. Then after that, we're going to give away a pair of Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers. And then to wrap everything up, we are going to do a 3000 micro subwoofer. So nice. 3 pretty phenomenal giveaways tonight.
I got one of those bad boys right here. I just love it.
I love to hear that, Ed. Well, we're also doing some community curation tonight. As some people may know if they've tuned into previous happy hours, we love to build music playlists. One, to add to all of our streaming channels, but also for the audio shows that we're doing. And I am in the 2-channel room. We're going to go through what we're playing in here later. But at any point, if anyone wants to leave a comment for one of their favorite 2-channel or just any kind of musical demo that we can use throughout the week, and we're going to be building a playlist and ultimately sharing it back out with the community. But we want song suggestions that we can play in the room for our folks. And if you are actually headed to AXPONA, if you come to our room 1442, you'll be able to make your own requests, and we'll play those on our 2-channel systems here. And we're very excited to do that. So why don't we start, Larry, by going through what you have in that home theater room and telling everybody what we're going to be playing in the multi-channel home theater demo area.
Yeah, so in here, we're going to do a 5.2.2 Dolby Atmos theater being anchored by the Ultra Evolution Titans, which you can see the white one over here over my shoulder. We've got a pair of those. Ultra Evolution center channel. Then in the rear, we have Ultra Evolution Nano bookshelves. And then you can see we have the Ultra Evolution Elevation, got the full name right there, on the sides for height effects. And then 2 SB17 Ultra Revolutions. And in here, we're going to be playing 4K movies and concerts. And I see somebody already saying TMNT. I think we'll definitely do that. I'm going to try to be a really good neighbor, though, because we do have our 2-channel room just on the other side of this wall. So I'm going to try to not destroy their demos, and they're going to try to not destroy mine. So we will be the loudest portion, I believe, of the show, especially in the hall rooms. So we're going to have some fun with that.
Power.
Yeah, Larry and I were competing a little bit earlier, and apology if the feed gets a little choppy. We're working on hotel Wi-Fi, so if we fade in and out a bit, it is what it is in a hotel. But yeah, Larry was unleashing some cymatics and some Jurassic World earlier, and it was really shaking, the walls here. So we're going to be timing it carefully.
That cymatic demo kills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even after all these years, it's I don't get tired of it.
So in my room, we have the 2-channel setup, and what we're doing is a pair of 2-channel setups, including the Ultra Evolution bookshelf speakers right there. And then we played around with the placement of the subwoofer for a while, and ultimately we settled on having it back here, sort of in the side of the room, a little bit further back. It helped reduce some of the nulls, and we're only running a single one of those with the Ultra Evolution bookshelves. And then we have a pair of the Ultra Evolution Pinnacle Towers, which will be running just with those two speakers, no subwoofer, and then all powered by one of the Hagel H400 integrated amplifiers, which sounds absolutely fantastic. So a pair of 2-channel systems with the new SB5000 Revolution and the Ultra Evolution bookshelves, and then a pair of the Pinnacles. So keep those song requests coming. Vince is working behind the scenes to capture those. Oh, I see some already coming in here, and make sure that we can have the best playlist possible for this weekend.
Isn't that Hagel a good sounding amp?
Oh, it's wonderful. I know I'm looking to have it set up in my home theater so I can do discrete 2-channel with just the Ultra Evolution Titans that I put in there this past week, and I can't wait to get one of those.
It really does make a difference. When we threw that Hagel in the system, man, it took it to the next level, in my opinion.
So I do want to talk through some of the things that are happening at AXPONA this weekend, but let's stick with the tradition and go with some of our content recommendations here. And I'll go first because I have one that this is one that Larry and I debate because he thinks it's kind of boring, but I think it's actually one of the best multi-channel. There's a lot of Atmos going on, but I mentioned it earlier. It's Jurassic World, and it's specifically the scene where Chris Pratt is like riding on the motorcycle with a bunch of the other guards, and they have the big truck, and they face the Indominus Rex, and they sort of have a shootout. And I just feel like you are in the middle of those woods. And I've been going through the Jurassic Park series with my 9-year-old, and he was like gripping the armrests with like white knuckles. So that's my recommendation. It's a great family-friendly movie. I think Chris Pratt has some good comedic value there too. And then Ed, I also finished Reacher finally, and I did feel like this was a better season than the last season.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the next one of those, and whoever the author is who makes that series, there's a million of his books, so I feel like that could just go on and on and on for as long as they wanted to.
Lee Childs, I think. I'm going up.
Yeah. My dad has read every single one of his books and owns them all. And
yeah, they're very fast reads.
Yeah.
And then, Ed just sent me a 2-channel recommendation. So why don't we go to you next, because you have made your contribution to the playlist. So Vince, I hope you're paying attention. What was your recommendation that you had from me?
So this is a little bit of a blast from the past. Al Di Meola, famous jazz guitarist. His album called Kiss My Axe from 1991. It's song number 2. It's called The Embrace. It's a fantastic sounding song. If you can find it in high res on Qobuz, it would be awesome. But man, there are some tympanic hits in that song that are startlingly strong. So if you wake up The Embrace and just get immersed into the song, when those deep tom-toms hit, man, it just blows the room out. It's fantastic. So again, The Embrace from Kiss My Axe by Al Di Meola.
There you go. You have any watching recommendations?
Yeah,
movies?
Landman took me here. Because I'm a big fan of Billy Bob Thornton. I am now watching Goliath, which is, that series is like 10 years old, maybe. I think it's fantastic. He's just as good as he always was. And that series has sucked me in, so we're enjoying that. And also watching Daredevil Reborn. I was worried that they weren't going to be able to do it justice. I think it's great. It's everything about the old series is just as good with this one. So I'm on season 3, or episode 3. No spoilers, please, because I haven't finished it yet. But I'm really enjoying Daredevil Reborn.
Love it. I saw your list earlier, Larry, so I feel like we could finish the show just doing your recommendations. But maybe you can give us the Cribs Note version of what you've been into recently.
Yeah, well, I've been traveling a lot, and I got to meet up with a lot of you in Montreal a few weeks ago at the Montreal Audio Fest. Maybe we'll geek out on that later too. But so I've had a lot of airplane time and hotel time, and I watched Adolescence. I'm caught up on Daredevil. I finally watched Moon Knight, Reacher. Last week I went and saw 2 movies at the theater. I did a double feature and saw Freaky Tales, new anthology movie that came out, and Luckiest Man in America, about the guy that kind of scammed Pressure Luck. The Studio I watched on my flight yesterday, pretty hilarious, from Apple. The Gorge, The Electric State, Empire Records this week, because Tuesday was Rex Manning Day, so we watched that. If you know the movie, you know what I'm talking about there. And last night we had our hearts broken again, if you live in Dallas, and Luka came back to play for the Lakers. But it was pretty amazing to see and his response and everything. And we did a late dinner that way I could at least see the beginning of the game, and then we watched it at dinner last night.
You know what? The crowd loves him, dude.
Oh, dude, it was I don't want to go into it, but it's like the angriest I've ever been about.
They want the head coach fired. They want Luka back.
They want everybody gone. Yeah. So, yeah, it was
45.
45, man.
And
So
almost a triple double.
I loved seeing it. You know, he's one of my favorite players to ever come through that organization. But
well, let's recap. I mean, Larry, you mentioned Montreal, and I think if you haven't been to Montreal, first, it's a beautiful city. Although, you know, March weather doesn't always perfect, but for an audio show, Larry was there a couple weeks ago. What was your experience like?
So if you are looking for another show, maybe outside of AXPONA to go, and you want to go north and hang out with our friends in Montreal, it's an amazing show. Man, I was sending Nick texts all weekend about just how cool the show was. The rooms were awesome. We were partnered up with our guys from La Liberté. They're a retailer in Quebec, and they set up a phenomenal system for us. We were using the Ultra Evolution Pinnacle Towers and an SB17 Ultra, which we didn't really need, but we were showing it off. A lot of people there hadn't seen it yet. And we were using all Ever Solo amplifications, and they were running them bridged, so tons of power going to the towers. And the Ever Solo streamer control is really cool for us because we like to demo with and without the subs. You can just literally hit a button to turn the sub off and on. But the show was amazing. When you walk around, there's a woman playing the harp the entire time of the show down in the lobby. There's
Sorry up there.
So it was a really cool show. So I hope maybe we do more with that. I would with you guys coming up in the future.
I completely agree. I went to the Montreal show the year before, Larry, and what an energy, what a great presentation they do there. So like AXPONA, it's just one of those that if you're into the audio show scene, it's definitely one you don't want to miss.
Definitely.
Gary, welcome. How are you this evening?
I am so happy to be here. Sorry I joined late. Somebody who knew me gave me a ride here, or I'd be even later.
Well, you're fresh off the plane. Of course, we appreciate you. And we were just going through some of the recommendations for listening. And I'm not sure if you've been to some concerts recently, or I'm putting you too much on the spot, but any recommendations for folks? And we are already collecting 2-channel playlist recommendations for this weekend. So anything you want to recommend for people who might be tuning in as far as 2-channel songs would also be welcome.
Well, I told you guys about some music I discovered the last show, and I really haven't. I've been very busy, as you might guess, over the last few weeks. So I don't have any really new music. Although I did get to watch in my theater the Night Man. What's it called? The Night Vision.
Night Agent.
Night Agent, which is a really good demo. So it was even a good demo just streaming on Netflix. And the other one that I saw that I think is phenomenal, and now I hear it's out 4K Blu-ray, is A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic, which I have my own. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a nutty Bob Dylan nerd. In fact, I have tickets to 2 different Bob Dylan shows this year already. One of them is in Pittsburgh the night before our team meeting, so I'll be all excited about talking about that with the team. But this A Complete Unknown, as far as the storyline, I think there's some things that I might have understood differently. But the guy, Timothée Chalamet, his performance is insanely good, and the sound is really, really good. So I definitely recommend that one.
All right, good recommendations, and keep those.
As far as shows, I'm going to see Bob
in.
Dylan. I'm going to see Jack White. I've got tickets for Jack White, which I'm hearing he is tearing it up. And 9 Inch Nails are touring, so I'm going to go see that. And System of a Down is touring. I'm going to see that. So those are some shows I have tickets for.
And Gary, did you see the 9 Inch Nails announcement from this past? Well, it's been known for a while, but the new Tron movie trailer came out this weekend, and 9 Inch Nails. 9 Inch Nails is doing the soundtrack. Yeah, I dropped some heavy cuss words when I was watching the trailer in excitement. If you haven't seen the trailer, it looks spectacular. So, outside of Jared Leto being the star.
Also, this is the wrap up of the DC classical music season. You guys know I'm not just about metal. I go to a lot of classical music, and thanks to Washington Performing Arts, which Nick and I both have volunteered for. I've got tickets to a bunch of shows coming up, which I'm very excited about. If you're in the DC area, you should definitely check out Washington Performing Arts, which is a nonprofit. So I'm not hawking a business, but they've got tickets to all kinds of really outstanding classical music over the next month and a half or so.
I am glad you brought them up, because I just want to quickly mention some of the good work they're doing. We provided some of our Prime Wireless Pro speakers, and they've been delivering them to some classrooms around the DC area that have underserved music programs. And there's a couple of videos on our Instagram, and they've posted a couple where it shows them delivering them and the teacher's sort of reaction. So I don't know, it's one of the favorite things that I get to do as part of being with SVS is supporting some of these causes. And just to see the reaction of the
helping these students in DC public schools get access to better music education. We're donating speakers. Nick was a big driving force behind that, even though I'm the one that lives in DC. And DC's actually has a good public school system, but a couple of the what we call wards in DC are resource constrained, so this helps them a lot. And Nick was a big part of that. We donated
a lot of these
SBS speakers to them.
Yeah, and a lot of them don't have playback systems, which really allow them to hear the texture, the nuance, the different qualities of different instruments, and so.
Or also, they just don't play loud enough for a classroom.
Well, that too. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I know a lot of people are here because they want to learn more about the 5000 Revolution series.
Yeah,
so
we killed enough time.
I think we're allowed to. I'm going to see if I can get a little screen share there. So these are the new subwoofers from the SVS lineup.
Beauty.
Our SVS 5000 Revolution. I have a sealed cabinet SB 5000 Revolution right next to me here. It's part of our 2-channel demo room. But Gary, why don't you just give us a quick frame up on sort of what inspired the technology and the design of these, and then we can get into some of the more finer details.
So and Ed, you help me with this, but if you're interested in 5000 Revolution, I'm pretty happy with the video that we made, myself, Nick, and later, first me and Nick, and then kind of from a 30,000 foot place, and then me and Smith kind of drilling into the technologies. The important point for everyone to know, I think, is that, because I think I say this over and over again to our team, we shot ourselves in the foot when we launched 2000 Pro and 1000 Pro, because people thought, it's just a better version of the 2000 series or a better version of the 1000 series. And in fact, it was a completely new product. And we were trying to reinforce how great it was by using the word pro, but it didn't resonate very well. And people thought they were, just kind of better versions of the old model. And that's just not what we do when we launch products at SVS. When we do a product launch, it's going to be a complete ground up reimagining of what's possible. So 5000 Revolution will replace the 4000 series. It is all the technologies that 17 Ultra Revolution brought to the world, brought to a lower price range, and not to say that they're inexpensive. I know everybody, we all work hard for the money, but they are less expensive than 17 Ultra Revolution, yet represent the same technology. It's our first ever 15-inch driver. It's essentially a 15-inch. We start with a 15-inch version of the 13-inch driver that we used in 4000 series, but it's a totally changed design, including a dual edge wound voice coil that we developed for 17 Ultra Revolution. And we marry that up with a dual mono amplifier, essentially the same amplifier as 17 Ultra Revolution amplifier. So we've basically got a smaller driver, 15-inch instead of 17-inch, although it's an extremely sophisticated, wonderful driver. Dual edge wound voice coils and dual mono amplifier. So you have an amplifier separately driving each voice coil. And then we have our 295 megahertz, so almost 6 times the processing power of the previous gen analog devices DSP. and an all-new switching power supply. So the DSP is basically the conductor of this orchestra of new technologies to optimize the performance of the subwoofer. And it doesn't care what voltage or current it gets from your household circuit. It works, we're up against, with 17 Ultra Revolution and now 5000 Revolution, we were up against what's possible in a 15 amp household circuit. We developed this power supply in order to not make you have to run a separate 20 amp circuit like you would for a dryer or a hot tub. We know you don't want to do that. So instead, we developed a power supply that, essentially via the DSP is a magic trick in a 15 amp household circuit. And, if I had Smith is just coming back from travels, so he couldn't join us. But if he did join us, he would tell you that essentially this is technology that's never been put in a consumer product of any kind, meaning no amplifier, no subwoofer, no powered product of any kind has ever used a power supply like this that allows us to deliver performance, output, and low frequency extension that we've never been able to do in a normal 15 amp household circuit. And the benefit to the consumer is it goes deeper than the previous gen, it plays louder than the previous gen. And then one of the points that Ed makes, and maybe I'll let you make it, Ed, is that it allows us to deliver incredible low frequency extension, but also all the way up to the mid bass frequencies. Ed, you want to riff on that a little bit? Because I thought you did a really good job explaining it to your own team, actually.
Yeah, sure. Really, the strength behind this is the extra power from the amplifier. We were running into power limitations with the 16 Ultra and the 4000 series that limited how loud the subwoofer could play in the mid and upper bass ranges. And this new amplifier platform has so much power that we are able to drive these new woofers to incredible output levels with insanely low, distortion and perfect clarity. We are looking at, in some cases, literally double the mid and upper bass output from previous generation. And that's pretty staggering.
And what struck me immediately, I've been living with this now for a while, but what struck me immediately was it goes deeper for sure. It plays louder for sure. But what I really was struck by, and Ed, tell me if I'm imagining things, I'm struck by how it's so quick and refined and musical. Like even the pluck, and guys have to remember, I listen to cello, I listen to acoustic bass in a jazz environment. So I'm listening to the pluck of the acoustic bass. I'm listening to the bowing of the cello, and it just sounds so natural. And then, of course, our demos that rock your socks off, those are also fully delivered in all their power and grandeur. So it's really, I think some reviewer, I think in Europe, called one of our subwoofers from an older generation Iron Fist inside a velvet glove. But it really is. It's just like capable of obliterating you if you wanted to with that right kind of content, like Godzilla -1 or something along those lines, or just delivering the refinement and nuance of a cello in Bach, and a solo cello in Bach cello suite. So it's really have your cake and eat it too product, which we always try to do at SVS.
I want to dive a little deeper into the technology, but we do owe a giveaway, and we don't want to keep people waiting for that. And our first giveaway of the evening is a SB1000 Pro subwoofer, and our winner of that subwoofer is Matt O'Brien. Matt O'Brien, congratulations!
Matt, way to go!
Subwoofer coming your way.
Enjoy.
So I think what's interesting to a lot of people is sort of the interplay between the dual mono amplifier and the dual voice coils, and sort of how that manifested itself. Because I think some of it came from that idea of needing to run it off a normal 15 amp home circuit. But there's other benefits to having that design.
I'm glad you brought that up, Nick. Because it also allows us to deliver massive amounts of power to the speaker in a very efficient way to the driver. And the dual voice coil design has the dual benefit of efficiency of power delivery, which Ed talks about a lot, but it also gives exceptional control. Ed, do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, the amp actually starts out with 4 monoblocks, and
Right.
it's sort of a series parallel connection where they're bridged. So we call it just a bridge dual monoblock design. And that is what allows us to send massive amounts of current to the woofer, along with these incredibly powerful MOSFETs, high voltage, high current MOSFETs. And with the dual voice coil, the thermal power handling capacity, especially, I mean, this is a 6-layer dual wound voice coil. So the thermal power handling capacity is insane in this driver. So that combined with this much power, it just takes the performance to new levels.
Now, is it fair to say we would not be able to have this execution without the DSP? Because there's so much going on as far as processing in order to make this, not only just the current transfer, but also maintaining the accuracy. Like every part of the performance is somehow impacted by this 295 megahertz DSP.
I think this is a great point. I'm glad you brought it up, Nick. And Ed, feel free to jump in.
There's so many algorithms running in the DSP. We have algorithms to monitor the amplifier performance, the thermal efficiency, and what's going on inside the enclosure, what's happening in the.
It even measures, it measures even the temperature inside the subwoofer enclosure. It's
how much power we're pulling.
And I did say in our video, and I don't remember if Eli left it in. We edited it so it would be not too crazy long, but I do feel like there's some imposter. I don't ever say negative things about other brands. I promise I never do, and I won't start today. But I find it, sort of shocking when a subwoofer claims to be high end and doesn't have any level of DSP at all, or very minimal. And we're doing so much real-time processing to optimize the performance of the subwoofer. And you will hear it if you come to one of our shows, go to a dealer, or just give it a try in our 45-day audition period. I'm not trying to sell, I promise. It sounds like I am, but these are my children and I'm proud of them. It will just impress you with how well it renders the content truthfully, but with it's truthful but always thrilling, which is a weird combination. When something is thrilling, a lot of times it's thrilling because it's a little bit exaggerating what the content is, and we don't do that. It's thrilling at the same time as being true to the content.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I think one of the biggest benefits over this, and a lot of people are asking, is this replacing the 4000 series? And I guess essentially yes, but it's almost not a fair comparison.
It is replacing it.
It is technically, but it's almost a more fair comparison with the 16 Ultra, which was our previous flagship subwoofers. And one of the biggest gains you get, and I saw a comment about the benefits in the mid-bass region, and where, how does that manifest itself when you have better mid-bass reproduction from a subwoofer, and maybe not mid-lower bass, I think is probably more accurate.
Well,
how does that actually get realized
this is a great question.
In a real world.
And there's multiple questions, and I've also seen some questions here that I think is really important to answer. One person's asking about the auto room EQ. So Nick, we really need to talk about that. You're asking, can you reframe that question? I want to make sure I answer it correctly.
Well, I think one of the biggest steps forward as far as the actual sonic qualities of the new Revolution series subwoofers, both the 17s and the 5000 to our previous gen, was the upper mid bass region. And what does that mean?
That's right. I'm sorry. So let me say
lower mid bass, I should say.
So when we launched the previous technology platform, which started with 16 Ultra and moved down like we're doing now, 17 Ultra Revolution and now 5000 Revolution, we go from the top down. Smith and I had a long conversation about, hey, Gary, do you want to go as low as possible? Do you want to play loud? Do you want to do the full frequency range of any subwoofer would ever do? And the answer, of course, is yes, I want all of that. But reality is, because of, again, what you're up against with the 15 amp household circuit and other constraints, you got to pick your poison. My theory was with that 16 Ultra that the person who is buying that subwoofer probably has a speaker that can handle the mid bass. And so better to make sure we have that extreme low frequency extension and that it plays loud, and then not worry as much about the mid bass. But because of this super sophisticated power supply, DSP, all new, very powerful amplifier platform, and very sophisticated driver with dual voice coils, we were able to deliver the extreme low frequency extension, play as loud as the user wants to play, but also the full range of bass all the way up to the upper bass. Now, will everybody use that upper bass? Probably not. Some people will cross it over lower if they have speakers that go very deep. But this gives you the option to do that. And some people will opt for the greater upper bass because it does give the sound of the subwoofer a little bit of bloom, which some people like. So it totally depends on the user. But now you have that absolute ability to make those choices. Ed, can you riff on that a little bit?
You know, when we were kicking around the test data.
By the way, this is club soda from the plane, so don't judge me. I'm not drinking in the happy hour.
It is a happy hour, Gary. I think you'd.
Oh, I have a Buffalo Trace that they gave me because I fly a lot. So I do have it.
What are you wasting that for?
Yeah.
You got the bottle or?
No. One of those little things.
Yeah, a little mini one.
Yeah, well, Buffalo Trace.
They're not going to give me a bottle. They probably think I would cause a riot on the plane. They're not going to give me a bottle.
So Nick, you know, mid and upper bass is that punch, slam, impact, tympanic, even snare drum, tom-toms, kick drum, you know, that sort of whomp that you feel in the room. A lot of people refer to as chest punch. That can only come when you have a drastic increase in max output of the subwoofer in the 40 to 100 hertz bandwidth. And that's really what we've achieved with the 5000 series and the 17 Ultra. And as Gary said, it's primarily due to the massive increase in power and the dual voice coils. We are just able to drive these woofers to much higher SPL than we were before.
The point is, I just want to reinforce this because I just spent some time drilling into these technologies for other reasons, which you guys will find out about because we're always thinking and always developing. Is that this type of technology is used, not exactly how we did it, but is used in the pro space. Like when you're going to a Tool concert and you're hearing this just massive amount of chest punch is the right word, Ed. I mean, it feels like you're getting punched in the chest.
Sure does.
They're using switching power supplies in order to deliver because even in a arena, there's limits to how much power you get and what you're trying to do. And also remember that this stuff all moves around from one show to another, and so the weight of it and the bulk of it, you need these sophisticated switching power supplies in order to deliver in those situations. And we're using technology that's just never used in consumer products because SVS, the SVS community is used to pushing the envelope of what's possible. So we needed to push the envelope that much more.
So we're going to go back to the audio EQ, but
somebody's asking about. Is it okay, Nick?
Let me just make a reminder real quick that we are building a playlist for AXPONA. So keep the song recommendations, the questions, the comments are amazing, but sprinkle in some
more
song
important than what
recommendations.
songs they want us to play, Nick. You don't think so?
What's that? We're going to share them back. We're going to read.
Okay. So
I just love a good playlist.
So this person's asked like multiple times a servo subwoofer compared to what we do. So this is a great question, and I don't even know who's still using servos, but let me tell you our take on servos. A servo, by the way, for people who don't know, a servo motor basically, and Ed, correct me if I say anything you don't agree with, a servo motor basically listens to the content coming into the subwoofer, watches the movement of the driver, and if the driver moves in correctly, it corrects it using a servo motor that basically stops it from over moving or not stopping quick enough and those kind of things. We don't do that. And there's a very simple reason why we don't do that. It's because a servo motor is always behind. It's always listening and reacting and trying to fix problems. Instead, we have a massive motor, dual voice coils, and a massively powerful amplifier controlled, as we said, by the switching power supply and the really sophisticated DSP. And for that reason, the driver doesn't need to be corrected after the fact, and it's much quicker, much more accurate, much more musical. Servos tend to be a little bit behind the content. Ed? Comment?
Yeah, it's a great explanation. Back in the day, servos were
they were state of the art once upon a time.
They were state of the art once upon a time. They were largely used to prevent the subwoofer from being overdriven, and they had sort of a heavy-handed reaction to that. And they would compress deep bass dynamics in an effort to lower distortion, and you just ended up with these deep bass compression. The presentation was kind of lifeless and lacking power and impact, and we just found a different way to achieve great performance without that sort of robotic, heavy-handed intervention that the servo circuit.
It's just not as organic to the content.
Exactly, that's a great word. It's not organic.
It was a great solution when we didn't have the technologies that we have today. So the old Velodyne servos from the olden days. When I was in retail, that was a million years ago. I sold those, the old DD Velodynes. They were very good products in their time, but it's just the world has the technology has just gone beyond that at this point.
And we have a question.
I'm sorry.
Our DSP limiter compressor algorithms are incredibly sophisticated. They're multi-band. We've got infrasonic, deep bass, mid bass, upper bass, and the DSP and the way we program it to react to prevent the subwoofer from being overdriven, but at the same time incredibly transparent. You don't even realize that the DSP is in there working, and the limiter compressor keeps everything just clean, pristine, organic, dynamic. There's never any sense at all that there's an intervention, a heavy-handed intervention on the subwoofer.
And then the other question is, I don't focus on regrets too much, but I have a regret. I want to tell everyone my regret. I think I've said it before, so this won't be that much of a headline. I regret that we pre-announced the auto room correction before we had it. And because we still don't have it, we will. We're very close, and we did test over-the-air updates to make sure that everyone who ever bought a 5000 Revolution or a 17 Ultra Revolution will retroactively get our auto room EQ technology, and they will. We're just trying to make sure that the user experience is totally perfect, and you guys know this about SVS. We don't launch things that are not ready for prime time. I would have rather, if you'd asked me now, and I knew how long it was going to take to get this perfect, I would not have announced the auto room EQ at all, and just would have let it be a nice surprise. But I promise it's coming. It's really, really competent and good, and the user experience is fun and seamless. And it will, anyone who buys any 17 Ultra Revolution from the very first day, or 5000 Revolution from the very first day, will have it in an over-the-air update. It'll come right through your phone to the subwoofer.
Yeah, and
you'll get notified.
Something that, if the app, whenever we got here and we're setting up today, and I started tweaking the subs in these rooms,
yeah,
said, "Hey,
Neil says better to underpromise and overachieve." Yes, Neil, that's what we should have done. Don't rub it in, Neil. You're rubbing it in.
The amp update was really cool. The way it worked is you open the app, and the app says this subwoofer has an update. You click start the update, and you literally just put your phone on top of the subwoofer, and it updates. Now, this will only be on the new Revolution series, so you won't see this stuff, this feature on the previous models, but it was cool the way it did it. It just took about 90 seconds or less, and that's kind of what you all can expect too. And we saw some other comments, people saying that they look identical to like the 17, and they do. It's just essentially a smaller 17 Ultra Revolution.
That's a good point, Larry. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, the 17 Ultra Revolution is the same size as the 16 Ultra, and the 5000 Revolution is the same size as the 4000 series, but they both have much larger drivers. We went from 16-inch driver to 17-inch driver, and we went from 13-inch driver to 15-inch driver in the 5000 Revolution series. And the reason is that we eliminated the display. That apparently I'm the only person who I did like that display. But
I like the remote option. Yeah,
most people turned it off, and now this allows us to have the larger driver and the better performance in the same size cabinet. And there, by the way, there is an OLED display on the back of the subwoofers. And my favorite feature about this OLED display is, if you're leaning over the back of the subwoofer and you're trying to read it, you can hit a button and it flips it so that you don't have to read it upside down.
Well, Gary, you opened Pandora's box. We're starting to get lots of questions about auto EQ now. Sean, wait, giveaway. Sorry. I want to make people wait for that.
This show
next giveaway is.
I thought it would drag because I've been traveling, but no.
No. Next giveaway is a pair of our Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers. Just add smartphone and you have yourself a true hi-fi system. And the winner of the Prime Wireless Pro speakers is IB Shorty. IB Shorty with an IE, not
That's
a Y.
not his
IB
name.
Shorty.
Come clean with your real name.
That's his tag. IB Shorty.
Tell us who you are,
So,
Ivy.
Yeah, you got yourself some sweet powered bookshelf speakers coming your way. Congrats on that, IB Shorty. All right, back to auto EQ
and Q-tip.
So there's a couple different questions about how that interacts with like Odyssey XT or some of the other room correction softwares, and what they need to know about what gets run first. How does that interaction basically get optimized when you have
rather than drill into it now? My sense is we talk about it when we launch it. But I will say that I did discuss this because I wanted to make sure I was right before I said you would run it first and then run the Odyssey.
Yep.
I used to say in the past, don't use two different room corrections, but ours is so focused on the low frequencies that it's okay.
And I've been having lots of discussions with our customers about the auto EQ or auto room correction. I'm on the development team. It's a fantastic product. We're getting great results. It's already on my phone and it's working wonderfully. As Gary said, we're very close. We're putting the finishing touches on it. And you really do want to run it first because it is strictly focusing on optimizing the frequency response of the subwoofer across the entire bandwidth. And then when you do run your main auto setup program, whether it's XT32 or Dirac or maybe Anthem's ARC, then it's going to do your overall level matching. You're already handing it an optimized solution, so it's not going to have to work as hard with respect to EQ, and then it's going to do time alignment, level matching, base management, all the things it normally would do at the AV processor level. So doing it first with auto room correction will, again, optimize the response, and then you hand it off to your AV processor and run the main auto setup.
And people are asking about the cylinders. Hey guys, I'm really sorry, but a 15-inch driver in a cylinder cabinet would look like a big black hot water heater, and we just felt like it's just too large of a driver to put in a cylinder. So if
we couldn't squeeze this
cylinder fans, we still will make the PC 2000 Pro. So you have that, but otherwise, really, it's just these two models, which anyone who's asking about a cylinder knows that it's the same performance essentially as the PB version of the 5000 Revolution in a cylinder format. So if you're in love with the sound of a cylinder, the PB 5000 Revolution will deliver that. And frankly, it's way, way better than the PC4000 without being, without being mean.
You lose the benefits of a cylinder model when the driver's that large, because then essentially you're at the same footprint as the sealed version. So it's like the whole point of the cylinder was to save floor space, and with a driver of that size, it sort of becomes impractical.
Well put. I agree with you.
And you can't really hide a water heater.
The PC4000 is already a 16-inch round, which is not tiny. And now with this 15-inch driver, it would need to be something like in the neighborhood of 18 inches, right, Ed? And that may not sound like much of a.
It's a huge increase.
It's a huge increase.
Someone is asking, is this a true 15-inch driver? And the answer is yes. It is a true 15-inch driver. And the takeaway here is the PC cylinder tubing is 16 inches in diameter. We cannot fit a 15-inch woofer inside that cylinder tubing. There's just not enough space left on the end cap. So
to be totally,
it's a non-starter.
Cylinders, they're not people are not buying as many cylinders as they used to. I'm trying to be really gentle with this, but they're not.
All right, we have a general subwoofer playback question here from Dan OS. He's curious, how easy is it to hear the difference in clean bass versus distorted bass below 20 hertz? So when you get to those infrasonics, you're only feeling it. Is there a way to see if it's, accurate, I guess you could say?
This is such a good question. I would say it's a fair question about any part of the low frequency range that a subwoofer creates. And the reason it's a great question is when you buy your first subwoofer and if you have nothing to compare it with, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I have bass. And then you don't realize maybe it's boomy, maybe it's one note, maybe it's not accurate. You don't really realize it when you get your first subwoofer. So that's why I always see, subwoofers that we know are, not at the level getting, really great user reviews. But then when you get a really high performance subwoofer, I don't want to make this an infomercial about SVS any more than I can't help myself doing. I'm going to back down from that and just say, look, when you get, it's almost like when you get it and you listen to it, all of a sudden you're hearing this, or feeling this low frequency extension, but it's perfectly true to the content. It's not boomy. And a lot of times the best way to know that is you're comparing it against what you heard before and you're realizing this is completing the picture, but not in a way that detracts from the truth of the content. And I think that's the best way for me to know. Ed, Larry, feel free to comment on this if you have.
Well, the truly infrasonic bass should be perceived as more of a pressure or a thickness or a sensation in the air. You shouldn't be able to hear it unless the subwoofer is distorting and creating, audible harmonics. A really good demo for me is the Flight of the Phoenix plane crash scene. Before the plane crash, where it's going through the sandstorm. There's a lot of infrasonic content in that soundtrack down in the 13, 15, 17 hertz range. If you have a sub that's capable of doing justice to that, when you play it, you really have a sense of buffeting in the room and you can feel the pressure changing on your eardrums. You can't hear it, but you can feel it. And that to me is a great demo for infrasonic content. It's more of a sensation than it is anything audible.
So another general subwoofer question, and we get this one quite often, and it's one of those where, it doesn't have an exact answer, but Sunil M wants to know about the 5000 Revolution series. What size room would it be suited for? And it's one of these, it depends, but
I really
if we can give a general recommendation or frame of reference.
A lot of times, the reason we ask that question is just to get a sense of what the person's expectations are. But in the final decision process, the reality is that if it fits your budget and it doesn't dominate the room visually, there's no reason not to get the biggest subwoofer that you can. And that is a self-serving answer, but it's also true. The hotel room that we're in with SB17. Excuse me. Yeah. We have a dual SB17 Ultra Revolution in one room, and it's not a giant room. And we have 5 5,000 revolution in another room in a 2-channel situation. And that's also not a giant room, but it's completely taking control of the room. And you do not need to overpower the room with too much bass. That is something, is a choice you make that has nothing to do with the size of the room. It's a choice you make. Now, clearly, if you don't want to see a giant subwoofer in your room because the room is small and you don't want to see it, I totally get that. People have lives. Ed, anything you want to say about that?
Well, we always, in customer service, I'm a big fan of ask the right questions and be a good listener. And when we discuss with our customers,
Not my strength.
What the best subwoofer is for their system, we ask things, okay, how big is the room? But also, how loud is your playback level? What source material are you playing? How much slam and impact are you looking for? And then we sort of contrast that against lifestyle considerations. Like Gary said, hey, we all have a life. That's visual impact, footprint, decor integration, acceptance factor from other people in the household. Things like that matter. So when we ask the right questions and get the right information, then we can steer that individual into the best product for their application. And you don't want to necessarily overbuy too much subwoofer if you're not going to use its capabilities, but you also don't want to underbuy the subwoofer where you're overdriving it and it's not able to scale up to the dynamics because your room is too big and your playback level is too high. So we want to get it just right. And that's very much an individual function. So reach out to us in customer service and we will walk you through the process and get the right product for you and make a perfect choice.
And I would say, I had a neighbor just now by SB. Ed, actually, you helped him, SB 1000 Pro, and that was his budget. And I said to him, and I will say this to anyone, I'd say this all the time, and I will all weekend long at AXPONA. Every single product we make always represents our best technology. It's never a thing of, oh, look, they're putting SVS on this thing, but it isn't really a true SVS. In fact, when 16 Ultra came out, that amplifier platform, which was very groundbreaking when we launched it, we were able to use a version of that amplifier platform in every successive launch after that, all the way down to 1000 Pro, which still is our most affordable subwoofer, but it represents our best technology. There's nothing to apologize for. And let me tell you something. He got this 1000 Pro. He had I won't name the brand. He had a different brand. He had a subwoofer. He had a different brand of subwoofer. I'm not naming names, but he literally is texting me. He's only across the street, but he can't help himself. He's texting me, I can't effing believe the difference. I know you told me that there would be this difference, but on a certain level, I kind of was filtering it. And now I realize, holy mackerel. He didn't say mackerel, by the way. He said a bad word. I cannot believe the difference. And that's, our most affordable subwoofer.
And you're not compromising. You're getting the technology. All of our products are aspirational. If you fit the subwoofer correctly to your application, you will have an amazing immersive experience at whatever product, price point, and model that you choose.
And it's a fun story. Yeah, it's a really fun story to tell. I get to work with all of our dealers across the globe, and one of my favorite things to discuss with them is kind of what we were just saying here is this uncompromised performance story where everything that's in the flagship trickles down to the models below. The build quality is the same in the Revolution series as the other models. So you're not sacrificing on a performance expectation because maybe you can't fit or afford our flagship product. All the same story is there. The technology is there. The build quality is there. The cabinetry, all the stuff is the same. And if you we don't like Gary said, calling out other brands, but if you do A/B and look at some other brands and look at their flagship product and look at their entry-level product, it's wildly different, whether it's building materials, whether it's amplification, whether it's performance, features. And it's not that way with our brand. And it's something a lot of people appreciate, and it speaks to a pretty amazing value proposition too.
Well stated.
So one more question, I think, before we start wrapping things up. And this kind of conflates a couple things, but I think it's a good thing to point out here. Kyle M asks, at what point does a 140 watt per channel AV receiver need external amplification to truly take advantage of the power of a 5,000 revolution. So the 5,000 revolution is self-powered. So the watts per channel coming out of the receiver really has nothing to do with how the subwoofer will perform. But that said,
even so,
is it
I would
possible
say
to underpower? Yeah, this is what I'm getting
no, I
at.
think it's a really good question. And I saw some people were saying, hey, the subwoofer already has power. And you're right. And maybe this person didn't understand that. But the real question this person is asking is, here I have this totally kick rear end subwoofer that can just do anything. And now I have a receiver that has built-in, maybe 11 built-in amplifiers. Is it going to be able with my speakers to keep up with this incredibly high performance subwoofer? And so it is a good question. And I think the answer is, it depends. To quote Ed, he always says that, but a good receiver should be able to drive your speakers. But using an outboard power amplifier, if you have the resources to do that, and still using the processing that's in the receiver, I like using an outboard power amp for the front two speakers, which are typically the largest speakers in the system. I have Ultra Evolution Pinnacle speakers as my front two speakers in my theater, and I have a very good power amplifier that is driving those two speakers, and there is a benefit. That said, we do design, this person didn't say they have SVS speakers, and maybe they don't. We try to design our speakers, and I think most manufacturers do this, so forget about SVS for a second. Most manufacturers drive their speakers or design their speakers knowing they're probably going to get hooked up to a receiver if they're in any affordable price range. And so you really want them to work well with that receiver, and they probably will. Ed, Larry, anybody want to correct me?
I'm a big fan of external power as well. I run a 5-channel external amp in my system. I would say we really start looking closely at external power if you have a larger room and you're running 9, 11, 13 channels and your playback levels are approaching what you would experience in a commercial cinema. Then the receiver's working really hard to drive all those speakers to high levels in a larger room. And the benefit of an external amp becomes very apparent at that point. You shift the load to the external amp, dynamics improve, the receiver's not overheating, the receiver has lots of power for the remaining channels. Maybe it's running the rear surrounds or the overheads. And the whole system just has a much more lively, dynamic presentation to it. So that's when we really start looking at external power closely. In a smaller system where you're not running as many channels and your playback level is not as high, then the AV receiver would generally be perfectly capable of driving your speakers and giving you a great experience.
And by the way, no offense, this is an addiction, and it's not the worst kind of addiction. It's okay to start. It's okay to start with the receiver, use the receiver, and then step by step, do your upgrades. And people always ask me, well, what should I upgrade next? What should I upgrade next? And I'm like, you know what? A system is typically only as good as its weakest link. So pick the weakest link and upgrade that.
That's a great piece of feedback to leave with our community here. So before we do our last giveaway, just a reminder, we're going to be at AXPONA in Schaumburg, Illinois, all weekend long.
We're on the 14th floor, and they always put us at the end of the hall. We have to. They think we're troublemakers. I don't understand why they feel that way.
That's right. I mean, I think it might have something to do with the low frequency sound waves that are emanating from our walls here. But 1442 is our 2-channel, 1444 is our home theater, and bonus SVS in the All Elite Audio Room. They're a partner of ours. We're going to have a Prime Wireless Pro powered speaker system set up with a gaming rig in room 704. That's the All Elite. So you'll be able to get a flavor, a little taste of our Prime Wireless Pro in a gaming setup. And like I said, we're taking requests. We're going to be building a playlist off some of your suggestions here. So if you're in the area or you just want to make a quick trip to Chicago, it's not too far here at Schaumburg Convention Center. So come check out the new 5000 Revolution subwoofers. Hopefully you'll learn something about the technology, and you'll get an opportunity to experience those this weekend. Last thing I'll mention, We might not have a happy hour before them. Larry and I are headed to Austin, Texas for the Lone Star Audio Fest.
Yeah.
We are going to have a massive system set up there as part of a film festival. That is the first weekend in
So
May.
the film,
So
just
if
to
you're
say, Nick, the film festival chose SVS for the theater that the film festival is being held in. So what an honor.
And this might be our biggest system we've ever done. So Larry and I might have to do a live stream
Yes.
from there just to kind of give a tour of what we're doing in this ballroom
That's
there as
cool.
part of this film
They do
festival. So
everything
very
big in
excited.
Texas, Nick.
I mean, why wouldn't we? You know?
And
So,
I'm going to take Nick to Bucky's too. I'm going to
I
let him.
can't wait. I am
experience
getting
that.
some good barbecue when I get to Austin. So that's the first weekend in May. You can find the details on the Lone Star Audio Fest website. Just Google it. You'll be able to find it easily. So our last giveaway of the evening is a 3,000 micro subwoofer. And the winner of our final giveaway is Mr. Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Sean.
Come check us out at the Schaumburg Convention Center here, AXPONA 2025. There's lots of cool seminars and other stuff going on, but the most fun is going to be had in the SVS rooms, of course. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Great
Thanks,
questions.
everybody.
And we'll be back in a few weeks.
See you in
Happy to-
Chicago, hopefully.